All right, good morning to everyone. Calling our pre-commission meeting to order at 8:04 a.m. Let's look over our agenda. First, we have our commissioners' reports, update on CEO of City Hall. Anything you'd like to say about that now, Commissioner Tender, in regards to your discussion on forensic audit?
Thanks. Yes, I would definitely like to propose that we do a forensic audit. And I would like them to start with all the purchasing policies. That's my main thing. And let me say this just in case, if our budget can't handle it, I would recommend we do 1 year at a time, starting with the day Margot Anderson left as mayor and coming forward 1 year at a time until we don't find anything wrong with the purchasing policies.
When you say the purchasing policy, do you mean a certain threshold of purchases or POs that were signed off on, or every fiscal year? I mean,
Well, for example, I've been receiving many, many calls, and when I say purchasing policy, for example, and I don't know if Kiki's going to bring it up or not, but I've been receiving calls about the clock. I mean, I've gotten a lot of complaints about the clock and when people think it should be on and off and all of that. But it's my understanding that this commission or any commission never even voted on it, and it was over $50,000. As a purchasing policy, I think we need to look at anything like that in a forensic audit.
may I recommend, and I would defer to the attorney and to Kiki as well, but if we do a forensic audit, can we do like the last fiscal year of purchases over $35,000 that did not come before the commission?
Or were they not bid out? Our policies, I'd just like to see that everything was done on the up and up. And when I say policies, I mean, did they get bids or not bid? Did they just?
Yeah, and some of those above 35,000, they won't have bids because they are either sole source purchases that we have sole source letters on. They are Sourcewell or state contracts or piggyback contracts. So we could get some language for anything over $35,000 that did not come before the commission, and to verify that they were purchased on a legitimate, up-to-date contract or a piggyback contract or some source
Okay.
like that.
I also received a story just 2 nights ago that we purchased uniforms to the total of $70,000. And what they did was split them in half. So they were $35,000 each. To me, that's purchasing policies that just need to be upright. They need to be transparent and honest.
So before Tuesday, Kiki and Ms. Hodges and I will get together and kind of come up with a couple different scenarios to present back to the commission to go over, and then we can go from there of what kind of scope we are really looking for, and then reach out to the appropriate companies for proposals.
And I'm assuming, again, this is an assumption, that whoever's in charge of grants, I was told, matter of fact, the man even brought to my home a hard drive with this on it. We received a $1 million grant. I want to say it was stormwater, but don't hold me to that. $1 million grant in 2021. And according to DEP, of who we contacted, only $700,000 has been used.
Yes, ma'am. We've reimbursed $777,000. We actually received bids this week on the second phase. The project was separated because the first phase did not require permits. It was more of a maintenance project. The second phase required permits that we got back in March. We bid that project out. It did not make this agenda, but it will be on the next agenda for award. And then we have about $222,000 left to award, or left to get reimbursed.
Okay, and do they, did you have to file for an extension?
Yes, ma'am. We filed for, I think, 2 extensions.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Anything on the consent agenda that's of concern?
I guess the question I had was about the Spartan bookmobile from Chesterfield. I thought that was pretty cool that it got donated, so it's pretty neat. I think it's an awesome thing. My only question is that it was donated, then it was determined that it was not fiscally responsible to pay for what it was intended for, or it was not feasible for us to do. So we decided to auction it off, which logically that makes sense. My question is, I just want to make sure, I guess really this is for the attorney, that we're able to auction something off if I guess to make sure we're not worried that the people that donated are going to come after us or something if we auction it off, because we are not using it for the original intended purpose.
If there were conditions to the gift that required the city's use of it, you do need to pay attention to those conditions and honor them. If there were no conditions, or they have consented to your disposal of it, all the law requires is that you declare the item surplus.
Okay, and we've gone through all of that.
Yes, sir. So they donated it with the intent to convert the mobile library into a mobile adoption center. It's really not feasible to spend the money converting it into a mobile adoption center. And so there were no caveats or requirements in their donation paperwork. They just signed the title over to us. So we've decided the best approach is to auction it off and put the proceeds to the animal shelter. So once this is approved, staff will auction off on Gov Deals, and then we can bring the proceeds back and let you know how much we received. And we'll have to do a budget resolution, I'm sure, to put the money in animal control.
Well, that's good. I mean, the money's going into what it was intended for anyway, so cool. Thanks.
All right. Any questions on old business?
Yeah, I did have one thing on the front yard parking standards. One thing I'd like to change, let me go to the verbiage on page 34 real quick. All right, where it says, so long as not blocking a public sidewalk, or it cannot be parked in the driveway, whatever. The main thing I'd like to amend is that it says, so long as not blocking a public sidewalk on public property. Because there could be an instance which we've talked about, that sidewalks are kind of all over the place, that they've been built throughout the years, that there is a potential that there is a public sidewalk on someone's private property. And so there's a potential of that happening. So I think we can, take the step ahead of time and prevent that confusion from happening between. I mean, it'll prevent code enforcement having to go out there and argue. It could prevent citizens from getting upset because they were confused. I think it's a win-win on both sides to just get ahead of it that way.
All right, is everybody good with that?
Let me just ask one question, if I may. I have that as page 1 of 2, underlining that, so as long as not blocking public sidewalk, just what you just said. And are you talking about taking it down to any utility or access point?
I'm saying right where it says, so long as not blocking a public sidewalk.
Not covering any utility or, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so just add after. So instead of saying, so long as not blocking a public sidewalk, say, so long as not blocking a public sidewalk on public property.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know we had discussed that before, and I didn't catch on to it until afterwards, but that makes sense.
All right. Agenda item number 12, any questions for interim city manager on that?
We've discussed this before already, right?
No, ma'am, this is a different lift
Lift
station.
covers, oh,
This one is at the foot of the bridge. We actually intended to put this in fiscal year 26 budget. Unfortunately, it just didn't make it. In your packet, there are some photos of the risers that have split. So we are down to one side of the lift station running. If we get a big storm or if it goes down, we will have an overflow, and it's right there on the bayou. We'll go right into the bay.
And was that job bid out?
That was 3 quotes. It was not feasible to bid out because we didn't have a set of plans to bid it out. So staff reached out to 3 different companies. You've got a quote in your packet from Marshall Brothers, from Mainline, and Gulf Coast Utility Contractors.
That's kind of what I was talking about before. But anyway, this has to be done, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions on 12? All right, questions on 13?
Yeah, the one question I had as I was going through this is for the sport registration fees. I know sports has really taken off in the city, and we've gotten a lot more participation than we have in the past. But do we know have any idea how many are out of Lynn Haven area that sign up for that?
Justin, we don't require to show proof of residency, do we? No, sir.
So I guess that's my question is, do you think that's something we should look at in the future as far as different prices for whether you're a Lynn Haven resident or not?
I will say it would probably be beneficial. I would go to Justin to any input on that question.
So we know that sports have really taken off in Lynn Haven. I know you've done a great job with that. Appreciate that. And we've had record number of people have registered for these sports.
Right.
So what we're looking at is it worthwhile to charge a different rate for out of Lynn Haven residents?
I do know Callaway does that. Give it a shot. I believe we are the cheapest municipality right now for sports. So I did look into trying to up the fees right now. I did that for NFL flag, going to $80. It'll be a good option for us to look at. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I can say when I was younger at Lynn Haven, I mean, this is over 20 years ago, the prices were set that way where Lynn Haven was cheaper than outside. And it's very clear that we have plenty of people that are coming here because they want to be here.
Right.
You know, and if they're using our facilities, I feel like that if they're not paying taxes to the city, they need to bring in a little extra somehow.
It's usually only a $5 fee.
Yeah. I mean, but shoot, that adds up, man.
Commissioners, is that something you all would like us to incorporate before Tuesday or wait until the next fee schedule update?
I mean, I don't think we're talking a substantial amount of money, so I'd be good at looking at it for next year. I don't know, what do you guys think?
That's fine.
All right, any questions for number 14?
So I guess this is more just for informational for me. I know this is important and ultimately it's going to save us money, but it costs $86,000. Is this something that's going to last us for like a long, long time?
Yes, sir. So these are the transmitters that you see on top of the meter box lids that actually send the signal back to the antenna for the read. We purchase these all the time. I just felt it was necessary to put it on the agenda because of the amount. And this is something, Commissioner Tender, that's a sole source, so it's not bid out. This is the only provider that we can get this material from, but it is over our $35,000 mark, so we're putting it before the commission.
And this is something that we're projected to have them all completed by fiscal year 27?
The end of fiscal year 27 is our plan, yes, sir.
Is this replacing an employee or making it easier so they can be in here and just tap and look?
Ultimately, the employee will not have to go out and physically read the meters. It will send the signal back to the billing department. The billing department will be able to put the bill out just like we're doing now on about 6,000 radio reads. So eventually it will do away with the employees going out to tap the meters. However, we will still have employees that have to repair those and make changes. So it's not necessarily eliminating staff, it's shifting staff around to different duties.
Thank you.
All right, questions about number 15? All right, questions about 16? And number 17?
So this one will be paid for by grants, right?
Yes, sir. This is the legislative appropriation that the city received this session, and this is $980,000 in trading in one of our current fire trucks.
So do we have to pay it first and then get reimbursed? Or
Yes, sir. We'll pay, and then we will submit for the reimbursement.
Any idea how long that reimbursement?
Reimbursements for the legislature stuff are pretty quick. I would assume we would get that back within 90 days.
Thanks.
There's kind of a, well, my question is, how were we given 980,000? And then, because I just think just want to point out that it's really interesting and it was pretty clever that I saw how we're trading in something to bring it down. Was it not that 980,000 was given, or?
So, no, Chief Johnson leveraged his relationship with the company the fire truck is going to get the deal in place, to know exactly what our request would need to be. And then former city manager Gaynor submitted the $980,000 for the appropriation, and that was awarded through the session.
Cool. Awesome.
And discussion for number 18?
Ms. Hodges.
Good morning. I'm going to pass out a packet so we can kind of go over it. From the last meeting, you all spoke about looking into a government executive search firm. I wanted to tell you what progress we've made, and then where we need direction from you as the commission on how to go forward. I reached out to the 5 entities that are listed under number 1, did a request for quote, spoke to 2 of the companies who responded. That's S. Renee Narlock and Sumter County. It's not that the others aren't interested. They're probably just waiting for the next step. And what typically happens is an elected body such as yourself, as part of the quote, will give a scope of work of what you expect the firm to do. And they have what they call the complete search, which could be anything from marketing materials, assessing what the range of salary should be, determining what the qualifications are and what your main qualifications are, going through the whole vetting of potential applicants, doing some initial interviews, and then providing top candidates as you all direct. The other option is an a la carte approach, where you want them to do just certain parts of the selection process. This is a typical process whenever we're recruiting for any type of position. Of course, it gets a little more extensive the higher up you go in that position. So number 2 talks about what the groups are going to want to see in a scope of work so that we can draft it appropriately. You know, what are you all wanting? What's your discussions? And be mindful that in speaking with the firms, one of their main questions is, do you have somebody in the wings? Do you have somebody that you're interested in? Because they don't, as a firm, want to stand out and go, we have no one, because they're communicating and marketing professionals, and then those professionals come and spend money to do their own search, only to find out that you had somebody. So that loses face to the firm. And so one of their main questions is, if you already have someone, the selection process could be different. If you're just wanting to see and make sure that one person is the one versus you're wide open. So those are the questions we need from you all to discuss and decide, because the process is different as we go forward. They will want to know how extensive a marketing package is, and it goes from several pages. They make beautiful brochures to a one-pager. Again, they'll want to know exactly what your main qualifications are. You know, an executive director, we can write a generic position description, and attached is a position description for the city manager. But it's going to range from A to Z. Do you want this person to have strength and capital improvement projects, or budgeting and finance, or executive leadership? It's hard to find someone that's going to hit every one of those bullets. They're going to have strengths and weaknesses. For example, Chris and I think I have strengths he doesn't have, and he has strengths I don't have. So we're able to bounce those off appropriately. Those are discussions they're going to want to know to go forward in this selection. In talking with the firms, the throw-out number that they've given me is the Renee Narlock works on a per-hour basis rather than a percentage of the salary. So I've seen and gotten the per-hour basis for that firm. There are some piggyback contracts currently in place that are going to range anywhere from the $45,000 to $55,000 range if you do the full package. Again, a la carte will be a little different. So these are some things going forward on this list that I believe the commission needs to think about. What's important to you? What are you looking for? What is your end result? Through that, we will be helping, the city will be helping them, if you do the full package, build a city profile, because they're going to market the city to these professionals. They're going to market the position to these professionals. So that's why this is just not a go and list it, which I can do today on our website. But without some of those answers, I don't know that our selection of candidates will be a good start. But I'll do whatever you all want me to do. I just need some direction, and hopefully I can start answering some of your questions.
Do we currently have a description of that position?
I've attached it. It's the second and third page. Job description, city manager.
Have we always had this?
No, ma'am.
This is new.
I developed it. Yes, ma'am. From, of course, what you do when you're developing position descriptions, you go beg, borrow, and steal from every other city. And this is what I would call an executive level job description. It's going to talk about leadership skills. It's going to talk about minimum qualifications. Do you require a degree, or are you going to accept education, experience in lieu of education, or do you want a combination of both? What kind of experience do you want them to have? How many years as an executive, or do you even expect that? So here's a sample. Keep in mind, the charter does identify things that the city manager is supposed to do for the city. That needs to be incorporated and is incorporated in a generic job description. A job description is never necessarily specific to the individual, but to the overall job. And certainly it can always be tweaked.
I think it would be interesting, and maybe, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, I think it would be interesting for all the commissioners to jot down what is the most important thing to them, and just throw them out there and read them all together, because I bet we all have different.
And obviously, you have 5 elected officials. What may be important to you may be the third most important to one of the other commissioners, and that's where this discussion is important. We may have to workshop it to be able to find out what is not only best for you, but what's best for the city. Again, keeping in mind, where is the city today? Where is the city going? Does the city need to move forward?
Well, no, I wasn't going to say anything about this.
So I guess one of the questions for us to consider based on this agenda item is whether or not we want to continue considering using an executive search firm, or do we just want to do it in-house and post on our online portal? So I think that's, before digging into the specifics of the actual position itself, just making that decision of how do we want to move forward in the search process.
Well, one of the things that is clear in the what's out there and available right now, if you look at the state of Florida, in terms of salaries, in terms of expectations, there is a cutoff between Central Florida South and then the Panhandle. We're a much different region from Central Florida South. Our rates are much different. Our geographics much different. Our culture is different. So just plucking something out, I could pluck out Miami Beach for you. It wouldn't fit up here. Number one, the salary starting minimum is $415,000. I mean, you just can't pluck that way. Now, that's where a firm sometimes can do a much more global, and that might be an a la carte idea. What really should we be looking at? I can look regionally and have looked regionally at rates, minimums, what are actuals, what are the benefits, what are their expectations. But that's just me bringing information to you. Ultimately, as the elective board, you all need to decide what's going to be in the best interest of the city. You have good candidates locally and could be at different cities. There could be great candidates all over the United States. Until we decide the path we want to go, it's hard to recruit properly for the position.
Is there any feedback on any direction we'd like to consider, or let's think over it over the weekend and discuss a little further on Tuesday?
It may be worthy for a workshop of some sort. It's hard. I mean, I can do one-on-ones and try to collectively bring it back together. But again, this is, to me, a multi-layered thought process that I would recommend you all go through. Amy's been very involved. We've been working together. Amy, do you have anything else to add?
I do. Whether you decide to do the search externally with a firm or internally or some combination of both, you do have to, the commission does need to give some direction as to the salary range and the background and experience criteria that you care the most about. Whether we do that, the city post it and filter it through Florida League of Cities and Florida Association of County and City Managers, or we use this executive search firm, that information is going to be necessary to anyone who does the search. Mm-hmm. So I would like you to focus your, at least over the weekend, on this job description, on the experience and the background and the salary range you think might be appropriate to post out into the world. Secondarily, whether you think it's in the best interest to use an external firm for some or all.
Do you think it would be best if we all individually contact Jennifer with our list and then discuss it at the next?
I don't think there's anything inappropriate about that.
I bet they're all different. So I would.
Well, you have 5 individuals who represent different parts of our city. So I wouldn't expect, I expect it to be different, but maybe not that far off. I mean, that's part of how negotiations work. You think you're wide parts, but really you're not. And it's just a matter of allowing me to ask the questions and see, are you close on some areas that you think you're far apart from? You may not be as far apart as you think. I don't know if this is appropriate to bring up the interim.
Oh. We might as well. It's not really related, but at the last city commission meeting, you did suggest one that you may want to search for a longer term interim from the outside to replace Chris. So that's one piece of the interim puzzle. And so if that is in fact the case of a majority of the 5 of you, that direction would be helpful. Mark Ryan is our senior advisor with the Florida City and County Managers Association, and he has agreed to, if you decide to go that route, to put the word out to his network of retired city managers to see if anybody would be willing to come up for a 30, 60, or 90-day stint to do that. Alternatively, but connected to that conversation, is whether you keep Chris, or for however long you keep Chris, or appoint another. I think there needs to be a conversation or some direction from the commission to staff as to an incentive pay, or how to address the fact that Chris is wearing 2 hats right now.
He has taken on additional duties.
So that additional compensation for the wearing the 2 hats is something you can do now with a contract. It's something you can do now with a motion. If you have a number in mind that would make sense. It's also a true up you can do at the end of his term as interim city manager. But I wanted you to be thinking about that so it doesn't get lost. That's not something that happens automatically with his appointment. That does require action from the commission to make happen. So.
So even if you did look for an interim city manager, I'm sure it's going to take quite a few months before you find someone and they sit in a seat and.
Yeah, the average is 4 to 6 months. And it depends again on that scope, and if there is someone who's already 1 or 2 or 3 that the commission's already vying for the position. And then there's no guarantee even at 6 months. I mean, honestly, part of the marketing is they're going to have to market a positive view for our city. And we all know we have a wonderful, positive city, but it's had some trauma. So if you don't think these executive applicants won't read and know all about the trauma, they will. And so that's part of making sure you have someone who understands what they're coming to, what they're facing, and how well they can adjust and move that position. From a staff side, we like consistency. We like the security. We have a city to run. That doesn't stop. We have to keep going running the city. So we need to know how we're going forward so that we can be able to move forward.
So I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and I guess one of my worries is if we do look for another interim city manager, and let's say they fill in for a little bit, and then you get a permanent city manager, what I'm worried about is one have one vision, then you get another one that gets a different vision, then you get a third person get a different vision. I know the city has been through a lot. The last thing I want is to create more instability. I think stability for the city is very important right now. That's kind of where my head's at right now.
Yeah. I kind of want to hear from the mayor and Commissioner Tender, since they weren't really able to chime in on this, what your thoughts are on that. Just because I kind of just want us to be, united in our decision on this. In an external interim.
I don't have any particular thoughts at the moment.
Okay.
So, but I'll certainly share when they come to mind.
Sure.
I have a few thoughts. Chris makes good money now. Not to say you're not worth a lot more, but could we trade you in free lunch and vacations? No, for your increase.
I think that goes against the purchasing policy you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, purchasing policy is right. That's for sure. I want to ask you, I realize this is harder because you're doing 2 jobs or 3 or whatever. Do you have a limit set in your mind? I mean, is this something you just want to hand over to somebody else as quickly as possible?
I think Ms. Hodges said it the best. We like consistency with the staff.
Right.
I feel that the past 2.5, 3 weeks, we're kind of getting back to being able to conduct business on our day-to-day operations as normal. So I am perfectly fine staying in the position until whatever desire the commission chooses for filling it permanently.
Now, I have had calls already asking if the position has been opened up yet for applications. Well, I don't know if this is an appropriate question or not. I think I better keep that one to myself.
Well, I have asked, and part of my job was to ask Chris if he's interested in the position.
Thank you.
Because if he is, I have to shield him from certain processes of it.
Okay.
Just as myself, if I decide I'm interested, it's going to go to someone else, because I don't want to give an undue advantage to anyone on the inside. He firmly said he is interested in the position.
Okay.
I haven't decided. I'm a whole lot older.
Okay, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid question to ask. There could be others within our leadership ranks that are also interested.
People who called me don't work here, but they live here in Lynn Haven.
Yeah,
And
certainly.
I'll let you know as soon as I hear. But
There's going to be people in the private sector. The private sector has a little bit, in my opinion, a learning curve if they haven't worked in government. But there are other executives currently in other cities that will be watching it. The answer to have we publicized it or are we recruiting yet? No, I need your all's input to do that effectively. So I think we're doing the steps. We are making the proper pathway, but it is going to require your input and direction so that we can do it effectively, however you wish to do it.
and how will we determine their starting salary?
I have already done a Florida search through Florida League of Cities. I've done a local search. You can assume that the range will be with Callaway already at over 150,000. I think at least 140 to 185. I have asked Finance Director Kiki Roman to put in 185, just to give you all some negotiation. I'm going to be real honest, it can go higher than that, and part of my screening, if I was to do it, I'd be screening, and if they're way beyond what the acceptable level that you all set, the answer is, we can't go that high. Are you still interested? You will have people from out of state that are making much higher because their cost of living and the economy is much higher. I can recount looking for the finance director when Kiki first decided to retire, talking to someone very well qualified in New York who was already making $179,000 and wouldn't take any less. Well, then our position's not available for that person. Mm-hmm. So that's just part of the screening that happens on every type of position.
When you say 140 to 185,000, is that just salary, or is that including all the pay and benefits?
That's just the salary.
That doesn't include all the pay and benefits.
No, benefits are going to equate to about 30%. That's true for all positions.
I think I want to apply, but nobody will learn anything, but we'll have fun.
Okay. And we will have applicants that do it as a part of executive experience. That'll go through the interview if they can get to that level of where they are truly qualified. Today, I can put an application in, and even though it has certain qualifications, people will apply because they either look at the money or honestly because they have to apply for unemployment. So they just put their names in. So there's definitely screening that will have to happen. And paper screening is just one evaluation point, because we can all look great on paper. And then it comes down to what I call soft skills in terms of determining if this person is the right fit, has the right experience that you all feel would be best for the city.
And that's when you would give us the recommendations that you have made?
Whoever, either a firm, they typically will take the group of applicants, and we'll just say it's 50. I've seen it over 200. They will scan through and call out non-qualified applicants. They may end up with a group of 30 or 40, and they'll probably do preliminary. I would do preliminary interviews based on your qualifications, and then identify what I thought the top 5 to 10. Usually at this level, someone's coming in and you're expecting them to do a presentation, just not answer questions. That may be part of it, but do a presentation about their background and why they have to market themselves to you all. That way you understand their span of experience and how it might fit.
I hate to sound so mistrusting, but I did this, and I know this from experience. In 2017, when we hired Michael White, the wives had to go to a different room, and the applicants were up here, and vice versa. The wives got to stay in the audience. As each applicant got up and said what his attributes were or whatever, the wives were in the back. After it was all over, we found out that they're typing back and forth and telling what the last person said. And then they all started to sound alike because they're just repeating from what the person, yeah.
And there are ways to
We have to make sure that never happens again.
And that's why a lot of places will actually ask for personal presentations. I will like to point out, it might not be wives, it could be husbands or partners or spouse or friends in the other room. We want to make sure that we're across the board, not making any judgments relative to sex, religion, age, any of those things. I'll help. I'll make sure you all are well, and Amy will, well versed in that. But there are ways to try to carve out a more consistent application process for you all. And one of the ways is a personal presentation before the board with some selected questions. At this point, if they're an executive director level, they should pretty much know the questions they may get and already have some idea of how they should respond. That's my opinion and my experience.
So based on the meeting we both missed, Mayor, I think the first thing, obviously, is we have to give you some idea of what our expectations are before we can do anything.
Yeah, I think we come back Tuesday ready to at least have a preliminary discussion on salary range, background info, job description, as both city manager or assistant city manager and city attorney have mentioned, and possibly considering that there may be some internal applicants that I would lean towards more looking at a firm to try to handle everything, as opposed to maybe handling it internally and in-house for the majority of it. I would probably lean towards a firm doing that, just for the transparency of it all.
I will like to add on the salary range, research shows your recruitment and selection process is more successful when you actually budget or publish the salary range. If you do, depends on qualifications or depends on experience, you will get a massive amount of potential applicants that do not fit. So you spend a lot of time, I don't want to say wasting either a professional firm or your time, and also wasting some professional time. So as Amy said, I think that is a critical decision point that you all need to make.
I don't understand the retirement part of what we do here, but I got a call last night about the percentage rate of retirement. Somebody who's got 30 years and they've got their retirement invested here. They want to make sure that, number one, the next person who comes in doesn't get the 5-year totally vested at 8% or whatever it is.
The percentage doesn't change. It's the same for all the employees.
Oh, really? Well, this person gets 3%.
That's what all the general employees receive is 3%. And you all have a board. The person may come and negotiate and say they don't want to be a part of the pension. City Manager
pension,
Lynch
that's
did
what
not
I'm
want to be
talking
part
about.
of the pension. So those are part of contractual discussions that you have. Part of the 5-year fully vested with what's called fully vested is part of the tenure of this level of position, often does not last 10 years. Either they have moved on to another executive position, or they have retired. I mean, there's different reasons for shortening the term. Currently now, we have a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 vesting levels. You can vest at 5 years at 50% up to 10. But those are what I would call the negotiations that happen after you're selecting or going to your top candidate or candidates. You may not just have one top candidate, you could have a couple, and it's part of that negotiation that determines what's going to be the best fit for the city.
So that will also be part of the contract and everything.
Yes, ma'am.
It's so multifaceted,
It's very multifaceted.
and everybody has something specific they're looking for.
Yes. Amy, anything else? I will add back on interim city manager Chris Lightfoot's situation. When Vicki was interim, the commission at that time in 2019 did provide a 15% bump for the additional duties. And then when she was contracted as city manager, went back and made some retro or recalculated what it would have been. Again, our research shows that you can do lots of different things. At some point, even if it's till the end of the interim, there'll need to be a look back to compensate him for the additional duties, because under federal law, he's technically working out of class with the additional duties. And I don't want to set the city up for a potential issue, legal issue down the road if he's in this position for a long period of time without some compensation for the additional duties.
Is that something we'd like to discuss further on Tuesday to make a decision about?
I'd just like to ask one thing, Mayor, if I can. 6, 7 years ago, when we started a city manager search, how did we do it? Does anybody here in the room remember? Did we do a firm? Did we do it through League of Cities?
The last time that I know that a firm was used was prior to city manager Schubert's.
So when we hired when we hired a city manager, Vicki
There was
Gaynor,
not one for
there was
city
not one. It
manager
was
for Michael White or for, I don't believe for,
But we had people from outside coming and applying and interviewing.
oh, yes. I mean, we can have a far reach internally. We currently have a far reach when we advertise our positions. It goes to, and this position I will target associations.
And we had people from all over the country. I remember getting the binder with 50, 70 people in it, and we looked at their bios and their stuff and whatnot, and we whittled it down from there. I mean, we worked on it until we got to our, I think it was 4 finalists, and then we actually met them in person. So, I mean, we did a pretty good search last time without using a firm. But, I mean, I just wanted to put it out there how the method that Commissioner Tenner and I have been through it. You've been through it twice. So
Yes, and I can honestly say the first time, Vicki Gaynor was hired as a grant writer under Joel Schubert. And this kind of leads me to a different issue, and I printed it out and gave it to somebody, I don't know who, about our conversation that we do not pay our females what we pay our males. We do not pay people of color the same as we do white people. And it was very disturbing. And Vicki took notes for Joel in that meeting. The HR director got fired over that because they said that was none of her business. She should have never looked into it. That was his words. That's why I have turned totally for the employee, because I know Chris has mentioned this, that we're going to do some kind of comparison or whatever. And that's how she got it the first time. They voted to make her interim, and she was interim for a while, and then we had no applicants. We had no applicants except one person, the gentleman from down south, St. Andrew or Andrews Air Force Base or whatever. He called the night before and dropped out. And I'm thinking, well, this doesn't look real great. So I called him at home. And I said, I just have a couple questions for you. I don't know you. I've never seen you. But have you received any kind of calls or anything? And he goes, no, ma'am. And I said, may I ask why you dropped out less than 24 hours before your interview? And he said, well, my wife and I discussed it, and we decided we have too much going on. They had high school students. He called me back 15 minutes later. He goes, I still want to have my interview with you at 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, okay. When I came, well, not here, but when I came to work, and Vicki did ask me, what are you doing here so early? I said, I have an interview with this gentleman. She goes, no, they've all dropped out. I said, no, he's coming at 8. Those two got up in public and had that interview, for the final job. Brotherton, that's him, Greg. Yeah. And so that's what happened in 2017. I don't know what happened beyond that. I mean, that's what happened the first time for sure, because I was right there.
Well, to respond to disparity in pay, we do run off of what's called a compensation scale that has a minimum. We don't interview, and whenever we put out an application, there's no question about date of birth, what your race is, what your religion is, any of that. I can attest that there is equitable pay across the board. Would you not agree, Interim?
Yes, ma'am. We are definitely based upon position, not any of the other things.
And I honestly think that the Evergreen company that the city of Panama City Beach they've used this company for several years now, and they come in and they interview all employees. I think the timing is perfect to do something like that right now and bring them in and find out what levels we need to be at. They basically look at cities of our size. They look at all the attributes, and they study every single job position in your city, and they come back with a full report to the commission and to the HR and the city manager as to where we should be at certain levels and whatnot. I think it's beneficial, and I think it's something that they've used to their advantage. Panama City Beach is they've stood behind it. I'd just like to see it done here. It just would be it would be something that would actually help. You'd want to talk about a healing or a face forward or a builder of morale. It would help bolster people who are possibly doing more work and underpaid, or people it'll set every job position. I think it's a great thing. So.
And I would also, one more thing. That's all I have to say about this. Our garbage department, it's run by Dan or Dave?
Dustin.
Dustin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Dustin. I would love to see that department evaluated for the years people have been there in that department, female versus male, and experience and pay. I really would like to see that one. Do I need to put in a public request for that? Is that best, or?
Well, again, what are your parameters? How long do you want to go back? I mean, I can give it to you what it currently is.
Well, currently, and I would like to see female versus male. I mean, female that has worked 20-some years and demoted that person, brought in a new male person, and it's my understanding he makes $10,000 more a year right off the bat. I mean, that department, I would just love to see that comparison.
I can do that
We can
currently.
get you the sanitation department.
Sanitation, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other pertinent matters for discussion before we move into our budget workshop? Not today, no.
Pre-meeting.
Here, may we have a 5-minute break so that I can prep the documents around the room, please?